that the WNBA is not doing enough to protect the safety of their players.
Let's just call it what it is, racism. It started with Caitlin Clark, and now it's me. Y'all see it. When white players start hooping at a high level, suddenly we're cocky, deserve to get hit, or we're too emotional.
I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. I'm a team player, so it's all good. Those were Sophie Cunningham's confident words back in June, after she was ejected for shoving an opponent to defend a teammate.
At the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do, and I'm a team player, so it's all good.
Fast forward to this Sunday against that very same opponent, and fate took a cruel turn. Indiana's self-proclaimed protector ended up needing protection herself, leaving the court in tears, clutching her right knee.
So the Indiana Fever realistically are going to need a Sophie Cunningham replacement. I think that's a given. They're going to need somebody to replace Sophie.
And the early indications of her injury? Let's just say they don't sound pretty. Early in the second quarter of Sunday's game, with a little over 8 minutes remaining in the half, things went horribly wrong for the Indiana Fever. As Connecticut's Bria Hartley drove into the lane, Cunningham slid over from the help side to defend.
Sinadona. Oh, and Cunningham is down. My goodness.
Hartley lost her balance while trying to make a pass and tumbled directly into Cunningham's right leg. The 29-year-old guard collapsed to the floor, screaming and grabbing her knee as the arena fell silent. 4 trainers help an emotional Sophie Cunningham off the court, a towel draped over her head after the brutal knee injury.
Looks like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it.
Beyond that, no one yet knew how bad it was. Cunningham was scheduled for an MRI on Monday, leaving everyone anxiously awaiting clarity. In the meantime, fans and teammates feared the worst. Knee injuries have a bad reputation in basketball, and with Cunningham's anguished reaction, an ACL tear was on everyone's mind as the nightmare scenario.
Cunningham's knee from this forced external valgus load pushing the knee inward.
Lately, it feels like every week another player goes down with a serious knee injury. In fact, the Fever have already lost 2 other guards to season-ending injuries this month. Veteran Sydney Colson tore her left ACL, and Ari McDonald broke a bone in her foot on August 8th.
They came off playing in South Carolina. Again, like if you are an on-the-ball player.
Around the league, there's been a rash of ACL setbacks. WNBA rookie Georgia Amoore of the Mystics tore her ACL in training camp. The LA Sparks young star Cameron Brink missed over a year recovering from an ACL tear. And NCAA phenom Juju Watkins had her freshman season cut short by a torn ACL in March. It's a brutal list that grows longer by the day. Until the MRI results come in, everyone can only speculate about Cunningham's exact injury. But that hasn't stopped medical experts from offering educated guesses based on the video replay. One such expert, sports physician Dr. Brian Sutterer, took to his YouTube channel on Sunday night to break down what he saw.
Sophie Cunningham suffered a right knee injury on this play, and despite the potential severity of the injury, a big conversation point around.
He laid out 3 possible diagnoses for Cunningham, covering the spectrum from worst case to not as dire. Dr. Sutterer addressed the worst case scenario right away, a torn ACL. He explained that the mechanism of Hartley's fall could cause an ACL injury. When a player falls into the outside of someone's knee and forces it inward, the stress on the ACL can be enough to tear it. In the footage, you can indeed see Cunningham's knee buckle inward upon impact. However, Sutterer also noted a slight silver lining. In his opinion, the impact and the way her leg bent didn't look as severe as what he'd expect with a full ACL rupture. That comment gave Fever fans a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, Sophie's ACL is intact. So if not an ACL tear, what else could it be? Dr. Sutterer outlined 2 other likely scenarios. He explained, another thing to consider is if the knee buckles inward, you're going to have a stretch on the inside portion of the joint. In other words, the way her knee collapsed could mean an injury to the MCL, which is the ligament running along the inner side of the knee. Dr. Sutterer even mentioned another possibility that might be on the table, trauma to the fibula bone. The fibula is the smaller bone on the outer side of the lower leg, just below the knee. In the video, Hartley's body crashes into the outside of Cunningham's knee, right where the top of the fibula is located. Sutterer cautioned that the impact could potentially have caused a fracture to that bone on the outside of the joint. A fibula fracture wasn't the first thing to suspect, but it's something doctors will likely check for in the imaging just to be safe. If there's any silver lining here, it's that the latter two diagnoses, an MCL sprain or a dislocated kneecap, are generally less catastrophic than an ACL tear. Neither is good news, of course, but the recovery outlook is a lot more optimistic. 550 injuries, for example, can often heal without surgery. The MCL has a decent blood supply, so partial tears can mend with rest and rehab, and even a full tear can sometimes scar down on its own. We've seen players bounce back from MCL injuries in a matter of weeks or a few months, depending on the severity. Just last season, Fever forward Damiris Dantas sprained her MCL and was back on the court in about 4 months.
How much more were you able to do today than you have been at any time in the last couple months?
5-on-5, a lot of defense, running up and down. Yeah, I feel good.
What was the specific injury that you had?
I have MCL.
A few years ago, Natasha Howard had a minor MCL sprain and only missed about 5 weeks. And in the NBA, Golden State's Stephen Curry famously suffered a grade 1 MCL sprain during the 2016 playoffs. He only missed a couple of weeks and went on to become the league's first unanimous MVP that year. In short, an MCL injury, while painful and limiting in the short term, can be a relatively manageable setback. Many players return at 100% from it, which is exactly what the Fever would hope for if Cunningham's MRI shows an MCL issue. NBA forward Ben Simmons suffered a partial patella dislocation in August 2020, and although he didn't require surgery, it marked the beginning of a tough period in his career performance-wise. On the collegiate side, UConn women's basketball player Ice Brady fully dislocated her kneecap in 2022 and ended up missing that entire season to recover. The rehab for a dislocated patella can range widely, sometimes 2 to 3 months, sometimes 6+ months if extensive damage was done or if surgical stabilization is needed. The uncertainty with this type of injury can be frustrating. There's no guaranteed timetable or outcome. If this is indeed Cunningham's diagnosis, the Fever will have to hope for the best, but prepare for a scenario where she could be out long term. At this point, all anyone can do is wait and hope. The Fever and their fans are anxiously awaiting the results of Sophie Cunningham's MRI to learn exactly what they're dealing with. We'll only know the full extent of the damage then. Until that happens, it's all just a waiting game. One reporter noted aptly. It's an unfortunate déjà vu for Indiana. The team has been snake-bit by injuries all season. Their franchise star rookie, Caitlin Clark, remains sidelined by a lingering groin injury. And as mentioned, 2 other guards have already been lost for the year. Cunningham had stepped up in a big way with those absences, providing leadership and averaging about 10 points per game since July. Now, seeing her helped off the floor in such pain was a gut punch to a Fever squad that was finally finding its groove.
The only bit of good news on Sunday was that Indiana managed to summon some resilience after Cunningham went down. They erased a 21-point deficit and pulled off an overtime win against the Sun in one of the most gutsy team efforts of the season. But even that thrilling comeback was overshadowed by the question mark hanging over Cunningham's knee. The Fever will need every ounce of that resilience going forward, especially if they have to continue their playoff push without Sophie's contributions.
As the team's medical staff likes to say, you hope for the best and prepare for the worst. By Monday, we should finally have the answer. Until then, it truly is just a waiting game, with everyone in Indiana holding their breath.